Hey guys, it's been well over a year since I last did a light novel collection video, so it's time. It's time to talk many light novels. All of these ones down here, not Donglies, not the manga, not whatever else is in this wardrobe. That's right, I just store everything in here, but I'm going to pull everything out and talk about every single one of my light novels I own. Let's go, shall we? Right, so the first one is Dark Souls Mask of Vindication by Michael A. Stackpool. Now, this technically isn't a light novel, but hey, I'm not going to complain if you aren't. This was sent to me by Yen Press for review, and I just never really got round to it. The reason being is that, if I'm honest, I'm just not that into Dark Souls. I played the original one many years ago, and I think I sank a weekend into it and just couldn't beat a boss and realised that I had better things to do with my time than sit and play the same boss over and over again. Nothing against the title overall or anything like that, it just doesn't interest me as anything to pick up. But I'm going to try this one eventually, and maybe I might give the game another go. Watch this space. Next up is Volumes 1, Volumes 2 and Volume 3 of Tear Moon Empire. Now, I have actually read Volume 1 and 2, but not Volume 3. This came very highly recommended at the beginning of last year, and I managed to pick up Volume 1 on the back of it, and I really liked it. I enjoyed it so much enough that I managed to pick up Volumes 2 and 3 on discount, but I just never ever got round to reading Volume 3. If I'm honest, I liked the premise, but after Volume 2, I kind of felt that I had enough. But that might just be me. I want to go back to it sometime. I like the idea, I just never really got around to finishing it. And for some reason, I just never had any motivation to continue reading it. I will eventually do so, at least hopefully. Next up is Unnamed Memory. I really like this one. I like the whole romance fantasy plot between the two characters. Again, this is another one. I liked Volume 1. I just never got around to reading any more of it. I think I've actually bought this like 2 or 3 times and just give them away as gifts, because at one point this was like selling for like £3 or £4 for the physical one. So yeah, this is either the one I read or the one I bought for a gift. I don't remember, it's been a long time, but yeah, it's a nice enough title. I would definitely recommend it if you want a fantasy romance that plays as a fantasy rather than an isekai. Yeah, a fun enough title, not for everybody however. Next up is Volumes 2 and 1 of Secrets of the Silent Witch. Now, this is another one. I've read Volume 1 of it and I really liked it. I liked the idea of it, and then I read it, and so basically this is about a girl, a witch who can't talk. She's very social anxiety kind of stuff, but she's really powerful, and she can do all of these really powerful magic attacks without being able to actually speak anything. And then it kind of ends up that she goes to like a magic school and has got to hide it. Yeah, that kind of lost me a little bit. But I mean, I read Volume 1 a while ago, and I recently picked up Volume 2 as it was kind of cheap, so I am willing to give it another shot. A lot of people really hyped this one up over the last few months. I do believe that it is worth trying out. It just kind of gave me a little bit of whiplash when it kind of ended up being another magic girl school thing. It just is what it is, but I really liked what I read. I just kind of had, it kind of put me off in some ways, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't a negative, that kind of thing. So J.K. Harrow is a sex worker in another world, and Summer Edition of the same title. Fantastic isekai, one of the best isekai, bar none. I say bar none, bar Ascendance of a Bookworm, Overlord and Konosuba maybe. But yeah, this is a fantastic read. If you can get beyond the kind of the concept of it, it is very well done. It is a very good read. I would 100% recommend it. I do have plans to do some kind of video on it and just kind of take the loss, because I mean, as soon as we have that, in a title, that's going to demonetize it. But I'm going to take the hit because this is one that I feel like everybody should be reading at some point. So, Chitose is in the Ramune Bottle, volumes 4, 3, 2, and yes, you guessed it, volume 1. This one is another one. This is a slice of life kind of high school thing, and you know what, I'm well beyond the years of really enjoying some of these high school kind of slice of life ones. There is some, for example, I can't remember what it's called, the one that Origaru, really couldn't get into that one, but this one is really good. This one has Chitose. I'm not sure what the whole thing is about being in the Ramune Bottle. I don't really kind of get that, because he's not trapped in a Ramune Bottle or anything like that. He's just kind of the centre of this circle of friends, and unlike most kind of protagonists in these kind of slice of life titles, Chitose is actually popular and has a healthy relationship with his friendship circle, which makes that all the more interesting. Volume 4 was a little bit weak for me. I'm not really a sports person and that was focused on sports, but it is a great series, a really great series. So if you do want to try out some of these slice of life ones, I would 100% recommend it. Can you guess what it is yet? Can you guess what this title is, or this all red title? I will give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you said it was Belle, you would be correct. Well done you. If you didn't get it right, well, there's always taking up PE or something. But yeah, the reason I haven't got a cover on this is because I started reading it, and then I realised that I probably want to watch the movie again before giving a full-on read of it, and then I can kind of compare them both and go, oh yeah, if you like this movie, this is what's different, this is what's the same kind of thing. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the movie rewatch and reading this. It was a great movie. It wasn't like perfect by any means. I feel like it was very overhyped, but it was a good enough movie, and I am looking forward to at least reading the novel version. Next up is a brand new one sent to me by Yen Press, and that is Blade and Bastard Warm Ash Dusky Dungeon Wizardry. That's right, so this is essentially an adaptation of an old D&D adaptation game. So the Wizardry games were ones that were on the NES, SNES, Game Boy Color, WonderSwan, many adaptations back in the day. I think it even had like a DS version. And it's one of those ones that was really popular in Japan to be kind of its own little thing. It is basically a computerized version of Dungeons and Dragons. And this is kind of like a novel adaptation for it, written by the author who did Goblin Slayer and the artist who does Overlord. I like this. My only problem was that it was kind of a generic fantasy. There wasn't anything special about the fantasy world, but what does be good with this one is the characters. So we have, this is the kind of the focus on the people who go into the dungeons to collect the corpses. That's right, so we have all of these corpse collectors, and yeah, it's a dark fantasy. It's kind of what you expect. It is worth trying out if you want a dark fantasy title, and I think it's a little bit less kind of uncomfortable than Goblin Slayer, but it still is a dark fantasy either way, so kind of go in with that expectation. But yeah, I liked it. The world could have been a little bit more interesting, but it's not kind of a demerit to the series at all. So next up we have Kizu Monogatari. So I own a lot of Monogatari. I own all of Season 1 and Season 2. However, whenever I talk about Monogatari, my favourite volume is Kizu Monogatari. I can talk about this one for days and days. I absolutely love it. Not so much the actual rest of the series, but I don't dislike them. I just got really burnt out on them and just never wanted to go back. So Kizumonogatari, I think as I'm starting to look to downsize some of my collection, I feel like I'm going to get rid of the rest of Monogatari, but I probably will keep Kizu because I just love it. It's a really great standalone title. You can read this either at the beginning or after you're back in Monogatari, according to the author himself in this volume, so don't feel like you need to necessarily read one or the other. You might get some different enjoyment if you have read Bakemonogatari, but this is also a good starting point because this, I believe this is chronologically the first one, at least from what I've read from season 1 and 2, this is the first one chronologically. But Bakemonogatari was the first one that was released. But yeah, it's a great title. It's very more action-based compared to Monogatari. But it's kind of like a false kind of thing. So if you read this, you might think that the rest of Monogatari is more action-based. It's not. But it does stand on its own very, very well. So let's talk about something else. So next up we have the peak that is Spice and Wolf. So I actually have another volume of Spice and Wolf. I've got volumes 1 to 3 and volume 8 of Spice and Wolf. So I got these two volumes many years ago, and I really enjoyed rereading it. I've started rereading Spice and Wolf, ready for the new season, and because all of you guys also recommended it. Fantastic series if you like economics, if you like a slow fantasy, medieval kind of romance. I wouldn't even fantasy, I would just say medieval kind of with economics and romance. Yeah, this one is very well written. It's a very good title, and I would definitely recommend you guys check it out at some point. Worth reading, definitely. So next up we have Infinite Dendrogram. I have volumes 1 to 19. I'm not going to show them all off individually because that would take far too long. This is an absolutely fantastic series, and it is easily in my top 10. So this is about the world of Infinite Dendrogram, and yeah, we have this main character who is Rhys Sterling, and he ends up in this world. It's like a MMO kind of thing where people start to believe that it's real if they get too absorbed in it. And he has this blade called Nemesis. And yeah, this is very good if you want your kind of shonen battle series with a lot of world building. The anime just did not do this one any justice at whatsoever, sadly. It is a really good one. I absolutely love it. I love the amount of world building. It is one where it will literally have entire volumes just talking about other characters and what they are up to in this world, and it just makes things feel all the more bigger for it. And I really like it. I really like this one. I really recommend people do check it out. It's one of those series where I feel like if I was just kind of stopped collecting light novels, I would probably still try to collect Infinite Dendrogram. It is that good. Take it from me. Next up is Bofuri. I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense. Now I have volumes 1 to 11, and you can probably just see volumes 1 to 10 on here, but volume 11 recently came, and it's actually what I'm reading at the moment. Another really fun one. I absolutely love this one. This is literally about a girl. She's scared to get hurt in this MMO game, so she puts all of her points into defense, thus breaking the entire game. But she's just not bothered about it. She just enjoys what she does and just has a really fun time. This really sells the whole MMO aspect of going out and doing stuff with your friends, in my opinion anyway. It's a very fun, cute girl does overpowered things series, and I really like it for that. I feel it's quite underrated. I don't really see many people actually talking about this one, sadly. But yeah, it is well worth the time and effort to try and read it. We now have a few odd titles here and there that I'll go over quite quickly. So next up is I've Been Killing Slimes for 300 years and maxed out my level, volumes 1 and 2. I thought I had volume 3 for some reason, but it turns out I didn't. This is a very comfy series about a girl who gets killed. She's overworked and she thinks she's going to take the slow life. In order to make money, she ends up kind of killing a slime every day to get a little bit of money, and ends up over many years, 300 years, gets overpowered, and then ends up with loads of people knocking on her door to try and get some money or challenge her or what have you, and she ends up with a big family. This is one that I would really like to go back to and read the whole thing. It just screams comfort, and yeah, I think I will try and do it at some point soon. I think it's every time I pick this one up, I always think, oh, I really want to get back to this one. I really want to get back to it. But unfortunately, the backlog is far too big. Next up is Sound Euphonium, one of my very first light novels, and I found it quite difficult to read. But don't think that is something quite bad about it. It is a really good read. If you like the anime, I would recommend checking this one out. It is very much an kind of a music concert thing where it's kind of like it shows that you can have like a musical in a light novel and make it work. I don't really have much to talk about this one, which is why I've never done a video, but yeah, it really comes highly recommended. It's a good read. Next up is Torture Princess. Now this is not 'Tis Time for Torture Princess, which is currently ongoing for a anime. This is Torture Princess Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, and Volume 4. Now, interestingly enough with that one, is that I read Volume 1 and 2 many times, and I bought 3 and 4 and just never got around to it. I mean, I bought this probably about 3 or 4 years ago now, so yeah, I probably should get back to that one at some point. But I do recommend it if you want your very dark literature. It's a very dark and gruesome, and as you would expect from something called Torture Princess, unless it's 'Tis Time for Torture Princess. That one's very wholesome. Do not get them mixed up. Do not. Really do not. Also, check out 'Tis Time for Torture Princess, the manga. It is very good. I'm not saying it's bad or anything, it is very good. Next up, we have a recent one that I read, which is Demon Lord 2099 Cyberpunk City Shinjuku. So this is what happens if the Demon Lord gets sealed away for thousands and thousands of years, comes back, and it's now Cyberpunk world. I really liked Volume 1 of this. There's 2 volumes in English, and I believe there's a 3rd one in Japan, so we should be getting the 3rd one at some point, but I can't comment on when that will happen. I like it. Again, it's another one that I really enjoyed. It was 50% off, so that's always a good little extra. But yeah, it's one that I just really had a good time with. I didn't expect much about it, but it was very good, and I think you can enjoy it enough just by reading the 1 volume. You don't have to read any more, in my opinion, but yeah, it's a good enough title that I would say is worth at least checking out at some point. Next comes the batch of titles that I just don't really have, again, anything really to talk about. I talk about these every time I do a video, and I'm just kind of like, there's not really much to see. So I've read Date Alive, King of the Dead at the Dark Palace, quite a good one. There was only ever 1 volume released, sadly, which I kind of was a bit sad about, but it's kind of been that long now. I probably would need to reread this and go back to it. But if you want a kind of a dark fantasy about necromancy and stuff like that, yeah, check this one out. Quite underrated. If the RPG world had social media, I thought it was quite an interesting premise, but I didn't really enjoy this one at all. The hero and the Demon Lord's daughter fall in love, and they text each other, and then he goes on an adventure to kind of save her, and she sends all of these other girls to kind of go and help him by getting in his way, and then they all join, and it's kind of fine. There's a 1 and done volume, but I wasn't really a huge fan of it, if I'm perfectly honest. It's kind of fine for what it is. I would love to be able to talk more about this one, but I think I remember reading it, and for all intentions of doing a review, just there wasn't anything to talk about, sadly. Time of Eve, another act. This is a novel adaptation of Time of Eve, the movie. It's fine. I liked the movie. The book was a little bit slower. I think I probably would have to reread it. It was one of my very first light novels, and I just never really kind of went back to it. About robots and robots that are pretty much human kind of thing. Yeah, it's good. The movie's well worth checking out if you can actually access it. But yeah, I'm not going to lie and say it's something that you kind of need to rush out to check out. High School DxD. Now, I'm not going to lie, I like this one enough that I bought volumes 2 and 3 digitally. But yeah, I just never got round to reading them. I like this more than I like the anime. But yeah, it's a very fun title, and don't really have much to say about it, to be honest. I did do a review on it way back when, so if you are that desperate to hear my thoughts and opinions on this particular series, go check out that particular video after you've watched all of this. The Girl I Saved on the Train turned out to be my childhood friend. Another slice of life romance. It's set in a school. Quite cute. I liked it enough, but not enough to read any more than volume 1. Orc Eroica. Wasn't a fan of this one at all. I kind of know where the author's coming from. I kind of like the concept, but it just felt, I don't know, I knew when I was reading this I would never ever be able to talk about this one as a kind of light novel review. But unlike titles such as J.K. Haru, this one I just felt uncomfortable about it. It was the whole thing is that kind of orcs like to do horrible things to girls, except this one does not. But all of the other girls think that he is going to do that, and all the other characters assume he's going to do that. It's well written. It just wasn't anything that I kind of wanted to read, if I'm perfectly honest. Decapitation Kabuki Cycle. So yeah, this is another Nishiyoisen one. I'm going to be perfectly honest, I bought it with the intention of doing a video based on this and a few other titles. Never got around to reading it, and every time I kind of look into it, it's always mentioned that there is no further content. I think there's like 2 or 3 volumes got translated and released, but they just never did all of them. So I'm kind of like, is it worth me even starting? I haven't read it at all, but it's in my collection. Once I start unloading stuff, a lot of these titles are probably going to get unloaded. This one too. Maybe I might try and get into it. It comes highly praised. I know it's really good. I just don't see myself ever reading it, simply because I kind of forget I own it, to be honest. Next up is The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4, and Volume 5. This is a very cute romance title. But honestly, I kind of dropped it. Now, if I'm perfectly honest, I liked the romance. I thought it was really cute. However, I kind of felt once they kind of got together and actually announced that they were dating, I kind of was like, do I need to read any more of this? I mean, I kind of felt like it plodded along for quite a few volumes as it was. Do I need to read more? And I kind of like, maybe I will buy more volumes, but at that present moment in time, I think I'd gotten like 3 or 4 similar kind of cutesy romance ones, and I was just like, you know what? I probably don't need to read all of them. I just need to enjoy the ones that I am. So for that reason, I kind of stopped buying this one. I probably will go back eventually. Maybe I might buy the rest of it digitally or whatever. But yeah, I like it, but it's just kind of one of those ones where it's just like, I kind of felt I'd read everything I kind of needed to with this particular one. I think that was kind of what it was. But yeah, I really like this one. Yeah, good series. Next up, we have a favourite of mine. Reborn as a Vending Machine, I Now Wander the Dungeon. Volumes 1, Volume 2, and Volume 3. This is a really fun series. It doesn't take itself too serious, but It does have a lot of really good vending machine factoids, and if I'm perfectly honest, for a idea that seems too stupid to work, it really does work, surprisingly. It's a really great series. I think it gets a lot of hate because of how silly it sounds, but it is one of the better written isekai with a unique premise. Definitely check this one out if you want something a little bit different. Another popular series that I really liked, and I've recently started buying more volumes of, was Tsubiki Bisco. Now I have volume 1, volume 3, and volume 2. I've only read volume 1. I actually recently got volumes 2 and 3 from pre-owned. One of the things I have noticed, and this is something important, if you are buying physical ones and you live in a place that does it, check out some of the used section on Amazon. Like I said, I've been getting these for next to nothing, and I mean next to nothing. I mean like maybe like 99 pence and maybe like £1 or £2 shipping. The same with like stuff like Spice and Wolf. And these are pretty much new. They might as well be brand new. So yeah, it is a really good way to get a lot more volumes for some titles that maybe didn't sell particularly well the first time around, and a lot of stores are just trying to clear stock. But Tsubiki Bisco is one of the more unique titles. If you like your shonen over the top kind of stuff, definitely check that one out because it is very good. There is a lot of kind of I don't want to say BL because that kind of implies that it's very hardcore, but there's a lot of it's very light BL in here. So if you want that kind of thing, check it out, along with a very unique world and battle system. Rascal Does Not Dream is another one of those fantastic reads that I just can't get enough of. I really like the idea of this one. So this is where there's kind of like adolescent syndrome where everyone kind of has these very hidden dark secrets, not dark secrets I suppose, like, or maybe stuff like, for example, this girl is so popular but she wants to kind of get away with it all, away from it all, and ends up kind of turning herself invisible and hiding herself away from the world. Everyone's got different kind of problems, and it's really nice. I am quite far behind in it now. I have been buying these, but I haven't actually read volumes 10, 11 or 12, but this is one of the series that actually made me cry. That's right, I think it was volume 7 or 8, I can't remember. I think it was, I want to say it was 7 that made me cry. It was absolutely depressing. But it's a really good series. I would really recommend checking this one out if you want a good written slice of life. A little similar to Monogatari, but I feel like it's a lot easier to get into. The next one is a franchise that I feel like it had an anime recently and I didn't really hear anybody talking about it, except a lot of negativity. But if I'm perfectly honest, I quite like this one once I got into it, and that is Spy Classroom. Now I've got volume 6. I've got volume 1 of the side stories. I've got volume 5. I've got volume 4. I've got volume 3. Volume 2. And guess what? I also have volume 1. So this is about a group of girls who have their own kind of powers and abilities, and they are sent to spy school to become super spies. And yeah, it's very interesting. I feel like it's one of those ones where it does take a while to get into it, but once you actually do get into it, it is 100% worth your time. There's a lot of really good content. There's a lot of gripping content in there. My only problem is that I just kind of forget who all of the girls are. I'm just like, oh yeah, I like this one, I like that one, but I don't remember their names, because what happens is that they have their actual names and they have their code names, and the series does jump between kind of using code names and actual names, which makes it very difficult to remember who is who, except for Sarah. She is the one who's got dogs. That is also awesome. Next up is one that Yen Press sent me a while ago, and I read volumes 1 and 2, and that is Alia Sometimes Hides Her Feeling in Russian. This is about a girl who sits next to this boy, and she kind of has the hots for him, and she hides her feelings in Russian, but she doesn't realise that he can speak Russian. And so she's kind of like saying all of these things, and he kind of knows what she's talking about, but he kind of hides it because he's like, oh, she's not talking about him, but she is. But it's kind of like, yeah, I like this one. It's very similar to Angel Next Door if you want your cute kind of fluffy romance ones. My only problem with volumes 1 and 2 is that I felt that she was kind of just there to be kind of saved by him quite often. It felt very one-sided in that he was kind of like rushing to her aid all the time, and she kind of wasn't on the other side. She liked him, but it was kind of like, it just felt that she was always the damsel in distress. Whereas Angel Next Door, I kind of felt that it was more balanced, and that both of them had issues, and they both kind of helped each other, rather than he's helping her a lot more than she's kind of helping him. That might just be my opinion and what I took from the first 2 volumes, but I kind of do want to go back to this one, because this one is getting an absolutely immense amount of popularity over the last few weeks and months. It is also one of my best performing videos of 2023, so yeah, a lot of people really like this one, and I can certainly see why. I'm looking forward to checking out more in the future sometime. Next up is one that I read volumes 1 of quite some time ago, and I really liked it, and I was looking for more comfy kind of series, and I was recommended Banished from the Hero's Party. And yeah, this is about a hero where he kind of like, he gets banished, but he kind of just leaves, and he's living in the countryside, and then the princess kind of follows him, and then other characters kind of follow, and he's kind of wanting this kind of country quiet life, but all of these things keep happening to that make him kind of go back into the swing of the danger and stuff like that. I like it. I don't think I'm going to buy much more. I actually think I've got more volumes than this. I kind of feel like I bought like volumes up to 3 and 4, maybe 5. But when I was looking, I couldn't see it. Maybe I put them in storage already. I don't know. Another series that I really liked the start of, volumes 1 of 86 is one of the best standalone light novels in my opinion. As it goes along, I liked volumes 2 and 3 and 4. I just kind of dropped off and just never went back to it. Now I've got volumes 1 to 7 here. I want to get back to them at some point. I will get back to them at some point, hopefully. But not at the moment. I kind of feel I've got many other things that I'd rather read. So yeah, it's an interesting one. A lot of people really hype up 86. I agree. Volume 1 is absolutely fantastic. Volume 2 and 3, not so much. Volume 4 was a return to form. I just haven't really went back to and read any more of it, sadly. Next up is Pretty Boy Detective Club, and you know what? I like this one. I read this for a review and just never ended up posting the review, because if I'm honest, I kind of came out of it with zero opinion. I was kind of like, I liked it, but that's pretty much all I can say. That's what sometimes happens with these light novels. It's like, I like them, but I don't really kind of have any particular opinion in them, so I just don't post the reviews. But yeah, it's nice enough. It was a time I read of something. Next up is The Devotion of the Surgery Room. I've not read it. I'm not gonna lie. I picked it up going, oh, this one sounds wholesome. I think it was like 70% off or something, or massively clear it off. And I kind of posted it on Twitter, and everyone was like, oh, it's not wholesome at all. And I was just like, ah, that's a shame. I'll read it sometime, but I don't know when. Next up is another one sent to me by Yen Press, and this one is a really fun time. I'm a guild receptionist while solo any boss to clock out on time. This is a girl who really enjoys her new job as a guild receptionist. However, she hates the overtime, she hates the forced overtime, and so the only way to stop the forced overtime is to clear the dungeons and herself and try and get a more relaxing life. It's good. I liked it. I don't know if I'd pick up any more, but I enjoyed what I read of it. It was a really good, fun series that was. It didn't take itself too seriously, but had a very relatable protagonist. I want to go back to this one, to be fair. Next up is one of my favourite titles from 2023, and that was Looks Are All You Need, Chica's Crescendo. So this is about a V-singer, V-tuber kind of girl who obviously hides behind the camera, and she is scouted by a talent agency and sent to a school full of gifted students. And yeah, the whole thing is that she doesn't have the looks, but she's got the talent, so it's kind of like, yeah, looks are kind of like just the initial thing, but the real thing is the talent you've got. And yeah, it was really good. I would really recommend it. Go check out my review on this one, because I do talk about it in a little bit more depth and maybe get my point across a little bit more clearer. But yeah, one of my favourite reads of last year. Another one that I really enjoyed, and I'm not sure if this is a light novel or if it's just classed as a novel. I count it as a light novel since it kind of was hinted at. And this is a standalone one called The Tunnel of Summer, The Exit of Goodbyes. I'm waiting for the Blu-ray release of this one to get released, and once it does, I will cover this one in more depth, because it's worth talking about, because there actually is quite a bit different in here compared to the actual anime. Very good one, where they discover this tunnel and time flows differently, and yeah, it's one that I feel like it's worth checking out more, going in as blind as you can. But I did enjoy myself with it. It was a very good standalone one-shot title. Do check this one out. And we're going from a one-shot title to two titles. Well, two ecchi titles, but they are very good ecchi ones, and that is Interspecies Reviewers 1 and 2. I'm not going to talk about that one because that'll get my demonetized straight away. It's Interspecies Reviewers. If you don't know what Interspecies Reviewers is, go and Google it. Yeah, this was an infamous series that got removed from Netflix for being too ecchi for the sake of what Funimation actually want. Very good series. I really like the series. If you want a ecchi series that's basically hentai, this is for you. It is a lot more filthy than the manga is, or the anime is. So yeah, it goes very in depth of the subject matter. And next up is one that I bought a few volumes of, and well, this is what made me actually want to read Spice and Wolf, because I got a lot of these at 50% off. That's right, Wolf and Parchment, New Age Spice and Wolf. And yeah, this is the sequel to Spice and Wolf. And I started reading volume 1 and realised I probably should read Spice and Wolf, or at least finish Spice and Wolf, because it spoils a lot of Spice and Wolf. So yeah, I can't really talk about it. I've got 4 volumes, like I said, 50% off. That's the equivalent of buying 2 volumes. I've not read them, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to being able to do so at some point. Hey guys, remember Wandering Witch, The Journey of Elena? What's that, you don't? Well, yeah, it was a good series from a few years ago, and I really like this one. This is one of my ones that I always like to pick up a volume for whenever I can, because it is the perfect palate cleanser. A girl named Elena goes from country to country, very much like Kino's journey, and kind of, I wouldn't say helps out, but is involved with a lot of the comings and goings of each of these countries, for better or for worse. Elena is a very fun protagonist, if a little spoilt. I can understand why people say they do not like her as a protagonist, but yeah, it's a very fun series. I really recommend checking this one out. At least check out volume 1 and see if you like it. It's all short stories, so yeah, it's I like that. I like short stories. At the moment there are 12 volumes out. I only have 11, so I think 12 literally just came out a few days ago. So yeah, I need to find that one, because it has been a while since I have read this one. A very, very fun series indeed. Next up, we have volumes 1 to 17 of Konosuba, God's Blessing on This Wonderful World. It's been a while since we've talked about Konosuba on this channel, because of course it ended. And yeah, it's a huge shame. I absolutely love this series. It is easily one of my favourite ones. I'm actually considering a reread of it. Maybe once I stop getting new ones, I will consider actually sitting down and just rereading the entire thing. It is just so much fun from start to finish. It is over the top, it's ridiculous, it's everything you want in a series if you want a comedy light novel. Plus, I also have the RPG. There, I haven't really looked at this. I got this for Christmas a few years back, with full intentions of actually playing it. But yeah, I just never really bothered to. I don't know what it is. I like the idea of it, but I feel like it's having an RPG as like a manga kind of like volume doesn't really work for me. And to the fact that you had to kind of go on to Yen Press's site just to get like the character sheets and stuff like that, because they just don't work in terms of thing. But I don't know. I feel like they could have just went all out and done a huge big hardcover D&D style RPG book for this, but they didn't really bother. And it's one of those things where I own it for the general curiosity, and I love Konosuba, but I can't see myself really bothering with it, to be honest. As we continue the Konosuba, we have Konosuba, God's Blessing on This Wonderful World. Fantastic Days, a spin-off based on a mobile game. I read this recently and it was a lot of fun. It was written by the guy who did the vending machine isekai, so you know it is good. I will do a bit more in depth on this one in the near future because it's something worth talking about. Also, Konosuba, Explosion on This Wonderful World, Bonus Story, Volumes 1, Volume 2, and also Konosuba, An Explosion on This Wonderful World, the Megamin spin-off, Volumes 1, 2, and 3. I don't think the Megamin spin-off is quite as good as Konosuba on a whole, but it still is a lot of fun and well worth checking out if you are a fan of the series. It's kind of insane that I've actually got like 24 volumes all of Konosuba and we still don't have all of the spin-offs. What's happening, Yen Press? Come on, get us the Dust spin-off. Please, please do. Next up is Monster Girl Doctor, and this is the complete series from volume 0 to volume 10. So yeah, that's what, 11 volumes. I really like this one. This is another one where I feel like it doesn't get nearly enough love for what it should do because of the concept. But if I'm perfectly honest, this one is well worth searching out, especially with 7 Seas being quite awkward when it comes to keeping stuff in print. Once this kind of goes out of print, I can't see it ever getting a reprint, but please do check it out if you want a Monster Girl series, if you are fine with ecchi and are happy with kind of going through a few interesting topics. That's what we'll call it, interesting topics. But yeah, this one is really worth checking out. I do 100% recommend it. It's a lot of fun. It ends kind of what you would expect, but they do manage to do a lot of really good things that you probably wouldn't expect in terms of a light novel to do. And yeah, I just really think it is worth at least trying out. Next up we have ReZero, and yes, what can I say about ReZero that hasn't been covered many times on many other channels? I really like this series, however, unfortunately, at volume 18, I had to drop it. The reason being, and I see it many times, I don't believe that the series is ever going to end anytime soon. And while that's fine in some aspects, I do also need to look at the future. Am I still going to be trying to read this in 10 years' time? Probably. And that's my biggest problem with it at the moment. It's, if it had an inclination that it was going to end, I probably would at least try and continue it digitally. I might even do that. And one of the things that I am doing with this particular video is I am setting some things aside to potentially sell on. ReZero and a few other titles are ones that I am considering selling on, and the only reason is that they take up a huge amount of space which I'm probably not going to have in a few months' time. And yeah, I just kind of, nothing against the series at all. I really like it. It's just, I don't have the space for it. And there's other series I just want to read more. Speaking of huge series, next up we have the Saga of Tanya the Evil. Another one that I absolutely love, but I just don't feel I get to talk about it nearly enough. Really fantastic title, and probably one of the most unique isekai out there. And this is about a guy who basically pisses off God, who punishes him by putting him as a young, frail girl on the losing side of World War One, an alternative version anyway. And Tanya is going to do everything that she can to stay alive in a war that it looks very clear that she's never ever going to win. It's very interesting. It's one of the best isekai out there. Very unique. The only thing I can kind of say about this is that Volume 2 is actually one of the thickest light novels out there in terms of word count. This thing is not something you can kind of underestimate. It will destroy you if you are not careful. But after Volume 2 and Volume 3, it does kind of be a little bit more plain sailing. Even if volumes are quite long, they do kind of read a lot easier. I haven't read Volume 12 yet. It is very soon on my to read list. I got that for Christmas. But yeah, it's a really fantastic series. I really do recommend you do check it out at some point. Next up is volumes 1 to 15 of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. Now, this one is another one that I really liked. However, I kind of came off the bottom of volume 15 and kind of was like, you know what? I'm done with this one. I enjoyed my time, but I can't read anymore. And this, it's just because something that happens in this particular volume just kind of really annoyed us. Overall, I love the whole aspect of the city getting built. I loved the aspect of like the whole shonen kind of feel for it. I love a lot of the characters, but it kind of got to the point where it was just kind of like, I was reading it, it was introducing loads of characters, like constantly introducing them, wasn't developing many characters at all. And every character that got like beat would just join Rimuru like very shortly afterwards. It kind of fatigued me far too fast, which was a huge shame. I like the series, but I don't love it nearly as much as I used to, which is a huge shame. But yeah, I think it's probably something that's probably worth continuing with if you do like it. But for me at the moment, not so much. I think much like ReZero, I'm probably going to continue buying them digitally maybe, and then just read them at my own leisure. Next up is volumes 1 to 11 of Do You Love Your Mom and Her 2-Hit Multi-Target Attacks. I'm going to be honest, I really like this series. It's not amazing, but it is fun. It's honest with what it is. You know what you're getting on the front of the cover, but it's also, it's just goofy. It's just one of those series where you kind of read them and you're just like, yeah, I've got low expectations for this, but it's surprisingly good in terms of what it delivers. It's better than you would expect. That's probably the best thing I can probably see. It does know what it's doing. It does appeal to a lot of low bearing fruit, but it does have a lot of really good ideas. And in terms of a world where we are oversaturated with isekai and generic fantasy titles, this one does a lot of things well. It does think about a lot of things. It does have a very clear set goal, and I can at least respect it for that. It's not the best thing ever, but you're going to have a pretty good time with it anyway. So, I also own most of Haruhi Suzumiya. When Yen Press announced a few years ago that they were going to reprint all of Suzumiya, I had to have it. The first one is fantastic. It is really good. However, if I'm perfectly honest, as the series went along, I kind of had less diminishing returns. I love the first volume. The next 2 or 3 are good. then it kind of gets to a point where I'm just kind of reading it and I was just like, I'm not really enjoying this as much as I should be. And when I kind of finished reading some volumes, I was just like, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this. My problem with this one, however, is that I got, I think it's these three. So it's The Wavering of Haruhi Suzumiya, The Rampage of Haruhi Suzumiya. I think I have read this one. I do remember looking at this cover. And The Surprise of Haruhi Suzumiya. And I think I'm missing one as well. I think it's this one as well. The Dissociation of Haruhi Suzumiya. Yeah, I think I'm missing one or two volumes. But I kind of got to a point and I was just like, I don't know which one the next one actually is. And I kind of got stopped with that. I think I've actually got to see if I can buy the rest of them, so I've at least got a full set. But yeah, Haruhi Suzumiya, I don't hear anybody even talking about this one anymore. It's kind of insane how this is such a huge cultural series, a huge important series, but I don't hear anybody talking about this one in terms of light novels or anything like that. So yeah, that's kind of scary when you think about it. I want to go back to it at some point. I say that with all of them, but I think it would require me reading the entire thing. I think I'm going to try and buy the last two so I can at least see I've got them all in a collection. Next up, we have another fantastic title, and that is the entire collection of So I'm a Spider, So What? From volumes 1 to volume 16. I'm going to be honest, I was quite sad when I finished this one at some point last year. I loved the series that much. It was one of the first ones I picked up. It was like, I had ReZero, I had Konosuba, I had Overlord, and then I bought Summer Spider So What along with the vending machine one because I just thought that they were just going to be so bad. But they were both good. Spider So What, a little bit more so. But yeah, I just really like this one. It's really well written. I feel like once it ended, a lot of people kind of disliked the kind of ending to it. So I feel like a lot of the wind got taken out of its sails a bit for it. But I like this one. I'm not gonna lie, it's one of my more favourite isekai out there. It's just a lot of that fun in a world that is just unfair on some people. Very fun series. Next up we have volumes 1, volume 5, volume 4, volume 3 and volume 2 of Restaurant to Another World. I don't know why they were all in the wrong order. Again, this one is a fantastic one. This one I think nearly always ends up just outside of my top 10. But it is well worth trying to pick one up. It is now out of print, I believe, or at least some of the volumes are out of print. So if you are trying to get it, try and find it as soon as you can, because I very much doubt 7 Seas are going to reprint it, because it's taken them about 3 years, if not 4 years, to actually release volume 6, and every time they put it back, they push it back by like 6 months. Come on, 7 Seas, release it. It's one of your best series you've actually got. Fantastic series, isekai about a restaurant, another world, how people go from the other world into this restaurant and have fine dining. It's very fun, it's ridiculous for what it is, but yeah, you're gonna have a great time with it. Do check it out. It's time we fire off a few more volumes because hey, time is getting on. So next up we have volumes 3, volume 2 and volume 1 of the absolutely fantastic The NPCs in This Village Sim Game Must Be Real. You know, Hirokuma is probably my most favourite writer in terms of light novels. Nearly everything they have picked up as being gold. So they did a Konosuba spin-off, they did the Vending Machine Isekai, and they did this, a 3-volume series about a guy who gets a brand new game, a village sim game, and discovers that they are more than meets the eye. It is absolutely fantastic, and if you want a brand new series that is only 3 volumes long, this one needs to be on your list. It is absolutely perfect. Going from perfect to not so perfect, we have volumes 2 and volume 1 of Division Maneuver. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this one. So there's a reason why I own this, and it's because it's not on the back. It was free for the 3 volumes for £10. So I was like, well, I might as well get both volumes of Division Maneuver, that's a full series, and also get a single volume of Perfect Blue. So yeah, I haven't actually read Perfect Blue. The reason being is that this is actually volume 2 of Perfect Blue. And so I've been trying to source a volume 1, and consider this is the novel version of one of the most significant anime movies of all time. Seven Seas have decided in their infinite wisdom to not ensure it is regularly in print. So once I do read it, I will cover it in the future. Next up, we have a title that I didn't even know I owned. That's right, I own volume 1 of Magical Girl Raisin Project. Never read it, didn't even realise I own it. This came out of the cupboard alongside Haruhi. I just can't see myself ever reading it. I don't even know why I actually own this. I thought maybe it was a library book, maybe it was something that was sent to me by in error, but I just don't know how I own this volume because I have never ever read it, and I don't think I ever will either. Maybe I should. Should I read it? Let me know. Next up is a spin-off, and that is Monster Musume Monster Girls on the Job, a spin-off to the fantastic Monster Musume written by the author of Monster Girl Doctor. If you like Monster Musume, this is a book for you. And next up we have the absolutely fantastic 3 Days of Happiness. I don't know if this is a light novel or if this is a novel. That's why it wasn't included in my top 100 light novels. And honestly, it is fantastic. It is a really fantastic title. I would 100% recommend trying to locate this one. A few years ago when I was asking for recommendations, this one came really highly recommended, and at the time it was out of print. I had it on order for the longest time, and it came like late 2022. And it sat on my shelf for a long time until I finally read it. I think I read it in like a weekend, and dear God, this is perfect. One of the best novels I have ever read. Absolutely fantastic. I don't really want to get too into it. It's what I wanted to do a full-on video on, but I just can't do it justice. There's not enough in here to kind of give it its own separate video, but there's also not enough visually to kind of do it. But it is one well worth trying out. I'm going to do a video on a lot of these novels, these one-shot titles, and just fire them off because, yeah, I'm aware that I'm just not covering them. Next up is another fantastic one, and that is Tomihiko Marimi's The Tatami Galaxy. Again, a fantastic title. Very well done. Obviously, we're kind of going into Japanese novels now, not necessarily just light novels, but the ones I am going to talk about are going to be ones that I kind of feel if you are a light novel fan, you're probably still going to have a good time with, and that is Tatami Galaxy. And also we have the sequel, which recently came out, the Tatami Time Machine Blues. I have not read this one yet. I got this one for Christmas and I just haven't had a chance to read it. It sadly got a little bit scuffed, however, in shipping, which is a bit annoying when you pay quite a bit of money for some of these volumes and they get a bit damaged, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, a sequel to the Tatami Galaxy. I'm really excited to see what this is all about, because Tatami Galaxy is a fantastic one and well worth your time. And next up, I think I mentioned this one before, but I read it all. Volume 11 of Bofuri is now here. Next up we have volumes 1, that's right, volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4, Volume 5, and Volume 6 of the amazing Irina the Vampire Cosmonaut. Sadly, as of recording, I still have not yet received Volume 7 to finish off this particular series. I've read Volumes 1 to 5, and honestly, if you guys watched my top 100 video, where did it end up? Answer me in the comments. Where did Irina the Vampire Cosmonaut end up? Answer that, and you will discover what I think about this series, because it is absolutely fantastic and is easily shaping up to be an absolute perfect light novel series, which I can't say that about many. There's only one or two other series that I can easily see has been perfect from start to finish. Irina the Vampire Cosmonaut, at least volumes 1 to 5, shaping up to be that. I can't wait for volume 7 so I can just binge and enjoy the rest of this one. Next up we have Warlords of Sigrid Rusalka. Yeah, I haven't read this one. I got it for Christmas and I'm looking forward to doing so. It's a big chunky boy, so yeah, it's gonna take a while to get into. I've got a few big chunky boys, and yeah, this one's written by the one who did ReZero, so you know there's gonna be some kind of quality to this. Next up is a movie that was very, very good last year, and that is Suzume by Makoto Shinkai. Yeah, you know this one. It's about the chair that runs around. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's got a chair that runs around. Yeah, girl and chair go on a venture. It's a very good movie. I haven't read this yet, but I'm very looking forward to doing so. My plan is to do a series of reviews where we look at, for example, we did these, like for example, I watched the movie of Suzume and also comment on the light novel, because I think that's kind of what people are looking for when it comes to stuff. I like the movie, is the light novel worth reading? And the only way to answer that is to also watch the movie. This also includes the next one that I need to cover, which is A Mysterious Blank Book. Actually, it is Deer King. Yes, this is a movie that I enjoyed. It kind of fell apart in the second half, but I have yet to read volume 1. I'm kind of waiting on volume 2 to come out so I can read both of them together. But again, this is another big chunky boy that, yeah, it's all novels, but it's novels that I think you guys might enjoy. Next up is a title that I actually quite liked. I read this late on last year, and that is Sentenced to Be a Hero. This one was an interesting one about when, like, you kind of, your crime, you do a crime, and then your punishment is to be a hero, and the heroes have to fight this endless war. It's kind of like, well, it's another war series. It's very interesting. I very much enjoyed the concept of it. If you want another one to scratch that itch that, for example, Tanya the Evil or 86 did not manage to completely scratch for you, definitely check this one out. Next up is one that I haven't read yet. I got this as a review copy, and that is Agents of the Four Seasons, Dance of Spring, Volume 1. It is very, very soon on my to-read list, and the reason being is, well, I got it to review, plus it's done by the person who wrote Violet Evergarden. That's right, the same author as Violet Evergarden, so you guys know that it's going to have some great pedigree behind it. Very excited to read this one. Next up is, well, this is 4 of them, and we have Yen Press's junior line. This is a lot of these is ones that Yen Press have sent me to review, so yeah, I'm going to do that because that is my job to do. And so we have Canine Detective Chris, Horror Collector The Faceless Kid, Phantom Thief Red, and Online, also with the illustrator from ReZero, it looks like. These I'm not really expecting much from them, but I've got a feeling that if you have younger people who like or want to get into light novels, it's going to be a good one. Look, ages 8 and up, perfect. I'm not gonna lie, I actually kind of really am looking forward to reading this one, to be honest. I mean, Yotsuba's at age 3 and up, so I mean that's one of the best manga of all time. Well, let's have a look at the next one. Only I Know the Ghouls Saved the World. Now, this is something that I didn't really cover in my kind of icks when I covered a video with all of my things that I don't really like, but if I'm perfectly honest, ghouls, I always tend to find that I don't enjoy series with ghouls in. I don't know what it is, it just kind of feels weird. It's the new vampire, except for weebs. Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, the character design isn't interesting. The story itself might be pretty good. I'm looking forward to at least trying it, but I don't know. There's something about it I'm just not kind of excited for. Again, another one I got as a review, but I will give it a fair and honest shot, as I always do. And next up is another one I got for a review, and yeah, this is A Certain Magical Index NT. Now, I did recently do a poll on talking about this one, saying, should I read this as one of my next ones? And I had someone in the comments shouting at me going, don't read it unless you've read the entire of the other one. But this is volume 1. I know it's a time skip, but yeah, I've read volume 1 of the original series. That's on digitally in case people are going, oh, well, it's not in your collection. And I liked it enough, but I didn't love it. So yeah, I mean, it's fine. It just kind of, I need to go back to it and read it again sometime, which I will do when I get the chance. So this one, unfortunately, is I might still try and see how accessible it is. I mean, it's 4 reviews, so I kind of feel like I should review it. But yeah, I can't really comment on it at this point. Next up is one that I did start, I just never got far into it, and that is The Samurai and the Prisoner. Now, this one is again from Yen Press. It's another thick bad boy, but this one I actually bought by myself. It wasn't a review copy. Basically, I bought it, and then like loads of stuff came as review copies, and I was like, well, I need to shelve this one to read some of the review stuff. So yeah, I'll get to it eventually. I'm looking forward to doing it because the synopsis, it looked like something that I would really enjoy. Now, next up, we've talked about a lot of Yen Press. Now, let's talk about another publisher for a second, and a series that you two probably will know. That's right, it is the light novels of One Piece. Ace's story, my least favourite of all of the One Piece characters, and this is, yeah, it's fine. It's kind of, it does what it is on the tin. It's a little bit of backstory for Ace, an otherwise rather dull character, and yeah, it was fine. I enjoyed it for what it was. It's just more in the world of One Piece. Sadly, it doesn't look like this sold particularly well, so it doesn't look like Viz is going to release the ones for example, Trafalgar Law, or the Nico Robin, or the Nami books, which is a crime, because at least Nico Robin and Nami are actually in, like, still kind of relevant characters in the series, and I would happily buy them, and begrudgingly buy a Trafalgar Law one. Another big pile of light novels. Next up, we have Your Former. I really like this one. I just never ended up doing a video on it. In fact, did I even cover this in my video where I ranked all of the light novels? I don't remember. I like this one. It's a bit like Psycho Pass. That's right. If you ever read or watched Psycho Pass, it's a bit like that scientific kind of futuristic world. It's good. I enjoyed it. It just didn't make much of an impression on me. It's a shame. Next up, we have God's Games We Play. This one was another one. I like the aspect of it. I like the concept behind it, but the actual series itself wasn't anything kind of amazing. It was about like this kind of where the gods are playing games and you've got to beat these games in order to do stuff. It's kind of like, yeah, it's fine. Then they've got this main girl, and then she's instantly replaced by boring McGeneric guy, who is the guy who needs to play all of the games. I wasn't that much of a fan of it. it was fine for what it was, I suppose, but I don't know. I kind of find a main character, if they feel like too much of a self-insert these days, it just kind of drops the series for me. Next up, we have the edgiest series of all time. The hero laughs while walking the path of vengeance a second time. It does what it says on the tin. You know from this you're gonna get an over-the-top edgy main character who's going around killing people because reasons. Wasn't my kind of title. I wasn't really a huge fan of it, but I think for the people who like it, they will get a lot of mileage from it. If you are the age range for this, which I'm assuming this is like 16, 17 year old, I would probably have a lot more fun with this than a 35-year-old. But yeah, it was fine for what it was. It wasn't anything special. It was just kind of what you would expect on the tin. Bride of Demise. Now, I'm going to be honest, I can't remember what happened with this one. I think I started reading it, and then I read that it was kind of like, it was building up to something, then got cancelled, and I think I stopped. I think I took it on holiday or something, and for whatever reason, I just kind of never ended up finishing it. I can't really comment on it. If you guys have read it, let me know. Is it worth going back to read it? It was sent with me a big massive bundle of stuff with a few others to kind of review. Just never got around to it, sadly. Next up is The King's Proposal, written by the same person who did Date Alive. Did I cover Date Alive in this video? I can't remember. I do have Date Alive Volume 1 somewhere. I just can't remember if I covered it. This video has been recorded for like a week now. So yeah, I can't remember what I haven't. This one is kind of forgettable. Guy gets trapped in a girl's body, ends up going to magic school. Yada yada yada, shenanigans ensue with the other girls. Yeah, kind of boring if I'm perfectly honest. Higehiro. I really like this one. This one is another one, I think kind of like your former, where I kind of like, I think I left this very late on and I was just like, yeah, I'm not kind of interested in what this is going to give to me, but when I read it, I was absolutely floored at how good it was. It is on my list. I'm actually going to have to put this along with my main manga collection, I think, just to kind of remind me to actually pick up some of the more later volumes, because I really did enjoy this particular series. I think it's done now. I think all of the releases are now in English, so yeah, I'm gonna have to try and check it out. I will do a video on it sometime as well, because I'm aware that I didn't do the video for this one, but I did like it. Next up is another one. I did enjoy this one, If the Villainess and Villain Met and Fall in Love. Yeah, I don't think I did a separate video for this one, but I did cover it at some point. Yeah, I like this one. This one is a very competent villainess series. I kind of feel villainess series is very hit and miss. I feel like I've read more bad villainess series than I've read bad isekai series. I kind of feel like isekai gets a lot of the kind of like get shat on a lot more than villainess does, but I think villainess is kind of a bit more generic. But yeah, this one was fine. I liked it. I liked the whole concept behind it. She's kind of like, they're not really a villainess or villains, they're just kind of portrayed that way in society, and so they kind of find each other and have a nice little time. Right, moving on from that disaster, we have multiple volumes of Reign of the Seven Spellblades, volumes 2, 3, 1, 6, 5 and 4. That's right, as always in this video, not in any particular order. I like Seven Spellblades, but I kind of got bored by it by about volume 6, and the next volume was being touted as one of my most hated of things. the tournament arc. And yeah, because of that, I instantly just checked out and I was just like, yeah, I'm not gonna even bother reading any more of this. And yeah, I want to go back to it. I think I'm like missing like 4 volumes now, so it is quite a big kind of catch up. But yeah, I'm not in any rush to try and read it. So 7 Spellblade fans, does it get better again? I really like the first 5 volumes. Volume 6, yeah, and after that, tournament arc, which I think goes on for a few volumes so as well. So long tournament arc. Oh, my most hated of arcs. I just can't stand them. But yeah, if this is good, let me know in the comments if I should pick it back up. Ah yes, it's that series that people online claim I have never read. Yes, I own volumes 1 to 7.5 of Classroom of the Elite, and I have actually read all of them. And if I'm perfectly honest, if I was about 20 years younger, I would probably enjoy this one a lot more than I actually do. Don't like the main character. I liked some of the side characters. I really liked... no... some of these characters. This character, she was very fun, and so was this girl at the bottom, and Rianuski, or whatever he's called. I can't remember what it's called. The guy who was on route number 7. I liked all of the rivals basically. My problem is that it's kind of like, it's a smart character but done very juvenile, and the problem is I kind of find when you have to write a smart character, you have to feel like it's smart, but it's very smart from a juvenile point of view. I feel like the problem is that the character is only smart because everybody else around him is an absolute idiot, and that kind of holds it back a little bit. It's kind of well done when you have kind of like rival characters who are also smart. However, they always seem to kind of have some kind of stupid flaw to them that makes them lose, and it just pulls me right out of it. Volume 2 is also one of the worst things I've ever read in terms of light novels. But as it is Classroom of the Elite, I read all 7.5 volumes that I've got. I don't think I'm ever going to touch it again, and I am looking to unload this at the nearest opportunity. Next up, we have volumes 1 to 4 of Full Metal Panic by Shoji Gato. Full Metal Panic was actually my very first light novel with the original Tokyo Pop editions, which are now in storage, which is why they're not in this particular video. I've read volumes 1 and 2 of these collector's editions released by J Novel Club, and I'll probably read volume 3 at some point this year. I have a feeling when I kind of get through to Full Metal Panic, I love it, but I always find that I've got to read 3 volumes. I can't just stop and read 1 volume and then go on to something else. I've got to read all 3, which is why I've never ever completed all of them. I will change that, because when I do read them, they are an absolute fantastic read. I have also picked up the more recent Full Metal Panic short stories, which, if you guys like the anime, this is actually the Fumofu stuff. So yeah, once I'm done all of this Full Metal Panic short stories, I'll probably have like 2 or 3 more volumes by the time I get to that. I know you can read it at any point, but I like to read them in order. Full Metal Panic Collector's Edition 3. Watch this space. More big books, and first up we have Anime Supremacy, and yeah, I read this one last year, and if you are interested in the anime industry, this one needs to be on your list of things to read. Absolutely fantastic novel, focusing on different aspects of the animation industry, but all coming together to make something fantastic. If you can find it, do check this one out. Another one which I really liked was Yokohama Station SF, a very sci-fi dystopian future in which Yokohama Station just continues to build and build and build, and yeah, is taking over the entire of Japan. You don't really see this kind of concept very often, at least these days. This is kind of like very much your late 90s kind of, like mid 90s kind of style of writing. I believe it actually did have a sequel, which I never ever got round to picking up. We'll maybe put that one on the back burner and see if we can get the sequel bought. Speaking of ones I can never find the sequel for, is Slayers. I loved this. I loved this when the anime first aired all those years ago, and I still really like it now. I really enjoyed my time with this a few years ago when this one released. I never ever saw volumes 2 or anything onwards, however, which was annoying because I don't want to rely on a courier service to deliver this and have it broke or whatever. Annoying. Again, much like Full Metal Panic, if I didn't have so many things to review, I probably would try and get Full Metal Panic and Slayers caught up with. Next up is a recent one, however, and that is Nier Replicant Project Gestalt Recollections. I love Nier. Nier is one of my favourite series of all time. Actually, I do have some more Nier light novels in storage, which I probably should fish out at some point. This is file 1. I believe file 2 is out in a few weeks' time. I want to say March, but I might be getting that mistook with something else. Either way, it is a fantastic series. I recommend checking it out if you have played the game. If you have not played the game, not so much. It does a fantastic job of adapting the game. However, it does spoil something very major. One of the game's big plot twists very early on in the book, which is quite annoying, but apart from that, it is really, really well done. If you are a fan of the games, do check this one out. And next up is one that I reviewed last year, and I don't think anybody even watched the video, which is a huge shame because this one is a really, really good book. So this is a shoujo josei title in which it's about a girl who works in an office who is constantly being asked out by this guy, and he keeps trying to win her heart. It's a very, very good one. It doesn't end with them getting together. It does have a bit of a relationship after the together as well. But if you want a one and done series book, not even a series, if you want a one and done book about romance with an adult protagonist, this one should be on your list. Next up we have Overlord, which honestly is one of my favourite series of all time. It is just a fantastic series. I've got volumes 1 all the way up to 16 in complete out of order on this shelf. I've just realised 16 free. Fantastic series. It's really well done. I'm hoping that it's going to stick the landing. I know the author kind of builds a lot of things up and sometimes doesn't deliver, but you know what? I've had a really good time with it. It's a fantastic read, and that'll never change for me. One of my favourite series of all time, and yeah, I'm really glad that I do own it. And a few more individual volumes. We're getting to the end, I promise. Next up we have Foxtails by Tomohiko Morihime. So this is the author who did Tatami Galaxy. They also did Night is Short, Walking Girl and Tower of Sun, and honestly they are one of my favourite authors. Their output has been consistently great, not so much Tower of Sun, but overall pretty darn great, and each volume doesn't really outstay their welcome. I do have Penguin Highway as well. I don't know why I haven't brought that one out, but yes, I do own it. There we go. Now I can talk about it and say, yes, I do have it. I actually haven't read this one, so maybe I'm going to read up Penguin Highway and the Tatami Galaxy sequel, and we will get a video on all of Tomohiko Morihime's works out, because they have been done very darn well in terms of releases by Yen Press. A lot of very nice looking ones. Very nice indeed. And also talking about a fantastic novel that I never hear anybody talking about. The Miracles of the Namiya General Store. Now this is by Kigo Higashino. I do own some of Kigo Higashino's mystery novels, and they are also fantastic, but this one was just brilliant. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I really wish I just had the time to sit and read books all day, because this one I really want to reread, and I will do soon. I think it is about time that I did do a whole video on some of these individual novels, because I feel bad that I just never am covering them, because there is a lot of fantastic titles out there that are one and done novels, which, yeah, and because they're not tied to a popular anime, or at least most of them aren't. They're just not getting the recognition that they deserve. Check some of these out. And last, but by no means least, I have the entire of Ascendance of a Bookworm in physical form. That's been released, which essentially comes down to Volume 1 to the end of Part 4. So that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 volumes. It's a fantastic series. You guys know how much I love this one. Amazing, amazing series that I think everybody should try and read if they want to get into light novels. There are so many great light novels out there. I've talked about so many of them. But yeah, Ascendance of a Bookworm is easily my favourite.